the garden yesterday, and this boy started talking to me. He'd be in this assembly hall, and he said, "Well, you're doing a talk in my school tomorrow." And I says, "I know I am, yeah, so I am." And he says, I says, "Here, kid, hold on, come here." I says, "Do you know what a para is?" He says, "Yes, a soldier." I says, "You'll do for me, kid." So he asked me a few questions, and I'll get back to that later. I was born 4th of January 1966. I started Holy Cross Boys in 1970. I had 3 teachers, Miss O'Keehan, Mr. McCurdy, and Mr. Hicks. Mr. Dorr was a teacher in Holy Cross in 1970. I remember him. Sadly, he passed a few weeks ago. God rest his soul. Mr. O'Malley was the principal in 1970, later to be replaced by Mr. McGuire. I remember we lived in very violent times. In 1969, there was displacement in our town as people had to leave their homes or were put out of their homes. People stayed in Holy Cross, right here in this assembly hall. And in August 1969, a baby was delivered in this assembly hall. Annette Colligan, who I know, her parents were Sean and Mary Colligan. My family had to flee our town in 1971 after internment was introduced. We ended up over the border in Gormanstown, County Meath. We were refugees in our home country. One of the teachers in Holy Cross was murdered by loyalists, Mr. Murray. He was in the next classroom to me. My friend Danny Barrett was murdered by the British Army while he sat at his own door. I sat beside Danny every day in school. So I want to get away. I wrote a lot more about the Troubles, but I don't want it to be too horrific. So I want to tone it down. And I'll just skip here to 20th of April 1977. A bomb went off at a Republican funeral, killing 2 young men, Sean Campbell, 19, and Sean McBride, 18. My dad's car was parked opposite the car with a bomb in it. My dad was in his car when the bomb went off. His car took the full blast. How my dad ever came out of that car is a mystery. When the bomb went off, I was sitting at my table in Mr. Hicks' class. The noise was deafening. The whole school seemed to shake as boys fell off their chairs. Windows came in, no, not in my class. A boy in my class started screaming, and Mr. Hicks had to hold him down. He was in hysterics. We thought it was a wee bit over the top, because we were inured by the violence. We were hardened by the violence. The 3-4 weeks before that, he had been in the car with his dad when it was stopped at Canberra Street by loyalists, and his dad was shot dead in front of him. We didn't know about post-traumatic stress then, but that's what came out that day in Mr. Hicks' classroom. And I want to move away from all that. We used to play chases on the school roof. I don't advocate that to the boys. We ran about like monkeys on a tree. We were fearless. I mean fearless. We used to jump from the school onto one of the mobiles. Sorry about this cat. Missing your dad. We acted in impulse. We never thought of the consequences. We were nuts. I loved football with a passion. I was always kicking the ball against the gable wall or going round the school pitch to see if there was a game in progress or to see if I could get a game started. More often than not, there was always a few with similar thoughts. Una and Tricia McClafferty, 2 tomboys, John Todd, later killed by loyalists, Martin Gahoon, Gerard Kelly, Paddy McKenna, later killed by loyalists, and sometimes Billy Begley. It was magic. The school pitch then had potholes, and when it rained, sometimes you would pass the ball and it would stick in a puddle, but we didn't care. I played for the 1976 P7 team when I was still in P6. Tom Austin and Eddie Flood done the same. That's how good we were. I was the youngest in the team. 76 team along with the 87 team that Mr. McAuley trained and coached were the 2 best teams ever to come out of Holy Cross. Why? Well, because both teams went through the whole season unbeaten and won 4 major trophies. We were constantly in the local press. I still have write-ups and photos which were in the Irish News, Belfast Telegraph and the newsletter. When I went to St Gabriel's Secondary School, me, Tom Austin and Eddie Flood were picked for a trial match to pick a Northern Ireland team to play Wales. In the trial match, my team won 4-2, and I scored 2 goals and featured heavily in the game and was very confident in selection. And on our way home, Tom Austin and Eddie Flood added to my confidence by saying that I was a certain to get picked. But I never was. I was stunned. My school thought it might be because I was from a Catholic school. I quit playing football that day and started boxing. Could have been the next Geordie Best. I'll never know. I was told recently by a friend of mine from Glenbryn, Andy Beattie, who's a poet, great guy who played in the trial match that day. He told me that Norman Whiteside played in the trial match that day. Who's Norman Whiteside? Has any of you heard of Norman Whiteside? Yeah, quite a few. Norman Whiteside still is the youngest player ever to play in the World Cup. He played in 2 World Cups for Northern Ireland, and he played for Manchester United in 2 or 3 cup finals. He scored the winning goal in the 1985 cup final against Everton and finished football at 26, so he was a legend. My dad didn't want me to box, as his father, Harry McAuley, was an ex-professional boxer who died of pugilistic dementia at 58. The blows he took in the ring put him in an early grave. I don't ever remember my granddad talking, he just made noises. He boxed for his country as an amateur and was Northern Ireland Pro featherweight champion. His wife Sarah was the older sister of British Empire, European and undefeated world flyweight champion Rindy Monaghan, my great uncle. There was only 8 world champions in them days, unlike the ignominious mess today. I'm very proud to say that I was one of the main movers in getting 240,000 from Belfast City Council for a statue of my uncle and another 2 boxers, John Caldwell in Dunvale, and a generic statue to recognise all the great boxers from the Woodville, Shankly area. It was one of the proudest moments of my life to see them erected. Drink water? Have you took my water? Doesn't matter. Anyway, get back to the boxing. I thought I went to 2 youth leaders, Hugo McGee and Mickey Brennan, to see if they could get me to go back to the football. But I wasn't for changing. I joined the Sacred Heart Boxing Club and won many titles for them. I won 51 out of 55 fights before I packed my bags and went to live in Manchester in 1982. I'm going to read a wee poem now. It was September 1982, but it was cold and wet. My parents were driving me to the Aldergrove Airport. I was being sent against my will to my Uncle Jared in Manchester. Not only was I being punished for insubordination, but my dad seen in me talent, and he was not going to watch me go down the wrong path. I was 16 and I was running about with a bad crowd. I was drinking, fighting, and driving about in stolen cars. I was also boxing, but had suffered a shocking loss. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I distinctly remember going up the steps on the plane and looking back to my mum and dad and Aunt Peggy who made it one last time. I had tears in my eyes. I was now entering a new phase in my life. What did my future hold? This was my first time on a plane, but I don't remember the flight. I was full of anxiety and apprehension. I wasn't the hard man I thought I was. I was a 16-year-old youth full of fear and trepidation. I joined the YTP in Manchester and I worked in making concrete flags. Very dry. You know the sort of flags you see in the footpath? I joined a boxing club called Cavendish and I became the scourge of the North West Counties featherweights and lightweights, winning many fights with one punch. I remember one fight in Warley near Birmingham, and I said to my team that I'm going to go out and knock this guy out with the first punch I throw, and it's going to be a left hook. And I went out and done just that. The editor of the Manchester Evening News, the sports editor Ed Barry, started to call me the Belfast Bomber. But IRA bombs were going off in England, causing death and destruction. Bombs that went off in the Arndale Centre in 1983. So me and my uncle Gerard had to go down to the Manchester Evening News. And I told Ed Barry, will he desist from calling me the Belfast Bomber? I told him I had come from Belfast to Manchester to get away from all that. I also won a national title for Cavendish. I was the champion of England, Scotland and Wales. And by coincidence, we boxed an Irish team. An Irish select came over here and I happened to box the Irish junior champion at my age and weight and beat him handily. So I was the best boxer in Britain and Ireland. In 1984, I went down to London to live with another uncle. I was working on building sites and I joined a boxing club called Hogarth. I was 18. In Manchester, I sparred with a professional boxer. Now I was sparring him every day. I had 19 fights in London, winning them all. I was really coming to the fore as a boxer. There hadn't been an ABA senior champion from Belfast since 1928. And when I got to the final in 1985, I was to face a paratrooper. The British Army and the parachute regiment, particularly the paras, had caused so much pain and hurt to the people of Ardoin. And with my dad Coco being well known for fighting and beating the paras on the street, then it didn't have to put me under an awful lot of pressure. Do you know that in the 1970s, the army flew over a regimental boxing champion to fight my dad on the street? You couldn't make this up. And my dad done. I'm going to read another wee poem. It's called My Mate Coco. There was once a tough and salubrious man called Coco McAuley, who the paras could never defeat. Coco ruled the paras was daubed in graffiti on a wall in Herbert Street. The paras flew in a boxing champion to take on my pal. From Germany he was thrown in to lift the soldiers' morale. At the end of a ferocious fist fight, the para retreated. Coco was a winner and still undefeated. It happened 50 years ago, but let's not forget. The legend that was Coco still remembered yet. So getting back to the ABA final, my dad and Ardoin's history with the paras really did put the pressure on. There were 10,000 people at Wembley that night to watch the finals, and 10 million watched it on TV. I'm going to read you one more thing. It's called The Power. In Wembley Arena, in a cauldron of atmospheric heat, 10,000 people were on their feet. What an incredible sight to witness this incredible fight. Teetering on the brink of defeat, from the hip I threw a straight right, which broke my opponent's nose. Oh, what a terrible sight. Carl Crook hit the deck in a heap. The ABA trophy was mine to keep. Into the history books I went. To the hospital, Carl was sent. Graffiti went up on Ardoin the following day. Oh, what a thrill. It said McAuley's 2, ours 0. So there you are. I was Belfast's first ABA senior champion since Jack Garland in 1928. I came home to turn professional with Barney Eastwood. Eastwood managed Barry McGuigan, and that was a carrot dangling on a stick. I also got a very nice financial deal. The media went wild. The new McGuigan, said one newspaper. Hits harder than McGuigan, said another. Better than McGuigan, said another. I'm screaming, hold on, let me walk before I can run. Barry McGuigan was a brilliant boxer and a world champion. The drums have been beating long and loud, and McAuley must show us what he has, said Belfast Telegraph's Jack McGann as I made my Belfast debut at the Ulster Hall. Anyway, I don't even want to talk about boxing. I'm not even interested in boxing. It doesn't excite me no more, it's an ignominious mess. What I want to talk about is the arts, because that's what gets me excited today. I'm getting into the arts, and I love it with passion. I live a quiet life today. I'm a Christian. I'm a vegan. And I love to go running and take long walks. I love to read and write. I write lots of poetry. I also love to go to the cinema with my son Shay. He brought me down to see La La Land and Everything Everywhere all at once. He is studying for his degree in Korean University, and he's into the final few weeks of a 3-year course. I attended Holy Cross Boys also. I wrote a book, Failing to Find Peace. I enjoy being articulate, and I get annoyed when people are lazy in their vocabulary. And if someone texts me and it's a lazy text full of spelling and grammar mistakes, well, that does my head in. I should have applied myself more diligently in school. That means worked harder. I really regret that I didn't. I was capable of much more. I just wanted to be the class clown and to be popular. But they were hard times. For the teachers and the pupils, the stench of defeat was everywhere. We were waiting in full-scale civil war breaking out. If I could give you lads in this assembly hall today some advice, it would be to listen and learn. Work hard. Learn to play a musical instrument. Do some drama. Try and learn another language. Be articulate. Learn big words and use them instead of curse or swear words, which are just a manifestation of anger. Thanks to my friend, Mr. McAuley, for asking me to do this talk. If you'd said to me 5 years ago I'd be doing stuff like this today, I would have laughed in your face and told you you were crazy. And that's me. Thanks very much.